Hello, everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
MangaPod.
Hello.
Hello. We are a weekly free podcast. That's what I get
We're
together.
a weekly podcast about free.
We have all
with Toby
manga.
Stud.
We read all our part of manga. We discussed it with friendship, love, and lots of spoilers. This week, we're talking about Ludwig Kakumei, which
Oh boy, are we
every
ever?
person in the world has to have heard of.
Yeah.
Most
Very
popular
popular.
manga, 1994. I'm
Yep.
assuming.
Mhm.
Was it
Uh,
94?
I have no idea.
Oh yeah,
I
this
just
is straight
I
up
said that.
Visual K inspired fantasy bullshit.
Oh yes, of course. It was the leopard print pants that gave it away.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I didn't hear what you said because my headphones came out.
You didn't say anything that matters. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Okay. We read the entire thing, volumes 1 through 4, chapters 1 through 16. And the reason we read this and it was put on the schedule is because it is Duger's birthday pod, everybody. So this was her decision.
happy
This
birthday.
was her choice. And also
Happy
before we go any
birthday.
further, what we have to do for every single birthday pod is we have to sing happy birthday to the birthday host, and we have to all do it completely in unison and on key.
Okay, ready?
You all ready? Okay.
Yes.
3,
Let's go.
2, 1.
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
Happy birthday.
birthday.
I'm not
to
dying, guys.
You.
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Dodger.
Dodger. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Hey.
Hey!
I never thought happy birthday could sound depressing.
Hey,
You're
surprise.
welcome.
It suits
Yeah.
the tone of the manga.
Yeah. That's what we're trying
Yeah, I
to do.
turned 30.
Happy
My life is
birthday!
just beginning. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Hey yeah.
Mhm.
Hey yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I realized that we didn't introduce ourselves, so we'll do that real quick. I'm Aaron, happily Aaron, your host. With me are 2 May 3 lovely co-hosts as well as a very special guest. So everybody go around, except I don't think Dodger has to, but she should anyway.
Hi, I'm Dodger and I'm 30.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. Omedeto!
Oh, medito, medito.
My name's Lou, and I'm from Lou Talks Anime. What's up, everybody? Happy birthday, Dodger.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Octo. I'm here from Octo, wherever I am. And man, what the hell was this manga, man?
I
What?
don't know. Would you like to read a summary of it?
You know what? I'd love that.
Yes, because. Go ahead. More. Further?
Should I just go right into it and read the synopsis?
Should I do it?
Just do it.
I'm going for it.
No,
I'm
just do
going for
it. Just do it.
Okay. Okay.
MangaPod.
Hey, in this grim and realistic take on classic fairy tales, Prince Ludwig, a female corpse collector, is ordered by his father to find himself a wife more suitable than the woman he often brings into the castle. Along with his servant Wilhelm, they travel across the land in search of fair maidens from classic stories in hopes of finding Ludwig a wife.
Perfect. That's exactly what I imagined you said.
I want Octa to do a reading of this manga
God.
in that voice for
Hey,
every
for
character
Ludwig.
Hey,
Hey,
every-
let me just tell you, I'm an necrophiliac.
no spoils. No
Not a
spoils. Not in the spoiler section yet,
Alright,
Octo.
alright.
God
Yeah.
damn.
Sorry, I spoiled this 25-year-old manga. Whatever. Fuck, whatever.
That everybody is looking forward to.
That everybody should read because it's a masterpiece.
I should probably tell everybody, if you haven't joined us for MangaPod before, what we like to do is give you a short spoiler-free description of the manga, which was just read. And then we give you our spoiler-free recommendations, whether we think you should spend time going to read this manga or not. That way, if it sounds like something you are interested in, you can take your leave when we get to spoiler section and go read it. Then come back and watch the VOD of this on youtube.com/happilyarin, where all the previous manga pods are hosted. We ask that nobody in chat spoil anything for this manga until we get to spoiler section. Yeah. There you go. So, spoiler-free recommendations.
I'll go first. All right. So, if you're in the mood for some quality trash, it's good. Good stuff.
That's what my dating profile website would say when I was on a dating Hey, if you're in the mood for quality trash, go ahead.
But,
let it rip like a Beyblade.
Yeah. Yeah, this manga was entertaining, probably in ways it wasn't meant to be entertaining. Yeah, so read it if you like things that are like that. Not intentionally as fun as they're supposed to be. At least at first. And then it changes into the type of fun it's supposed to be, and it still maintains enjoyability. It'll make more sense once we start discussing things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would say that especially reading this again as an adult. So I originally read this when I was 18, I want to say, and I remembered it so well, which is why I was like, God, you know what we should fucking read on my birthday is Ludwig Kakumei, because I went through like a Kaori Yuki phase, and she's known for some kind of like some sort of fucked up stories, right? So this one, I would say overall is not like, it's not a super cohesive story. There's so many fucking plot holes. There's so many moments where things happen and you're like, what? When the fuck did they get there? Right? Like this doesn't totally make sense ever. But there are moments where she twists fairy stories, fairy tales, and you're like, oh, that was kind of a cool twist. And there are moments where a joke is made and you're like, that's a pretty funny joke. Overall, it's not going to be something where you're like, that was really worth my time. But yeah, it's like, it's got some good trash in there.
Okay, I have to go for like 1 second, for like 10 seconds, but I'm going to say my thing. This manga sucks and is awesome at the same time. I'll be right back.
I mean, I agree. It's concisely to the point.
Octo just did like the podcasting equivalent of the mic drop.
It's true. He kept it so succinct.
I won't add very much to this other than if you're gonna read this, read it with a friend, because I think the best part about this manga is being able to discuss it with somebody else, like we're going to be doing. This is one of those manga that if you're gonna read it, you want to have somebody else to discuss it with very quickly afterwards.
Hey, make your own manga book club.
Yeah, only read Ludwig Kakumei.
And then disband immediately.
Yeah, so it's got the 90s art style, if you're into that. Got some goth, like Dodger said. It's got the like funny jokes every now and then, but there's a lot of plot holes. The writing could use some work, but it's gonna be one that'll be fun to talk about, that's for sure. So should we wait? It's
I don't know.
What do we?
What we've never had to do this before.
I know.
What do we do?
Impeccable timing.
Oh man.
Sorry. I ordered food like a million years ago and it just got here because I was like, I'll eat before MangaPod, but alas, here we are.
You were panicking, trying to figure out if we should switch to spoiler section when you were.
No. Go ahead.
We didn't know.
Let's do it.
Spoiler section, countdown, please. I'm gonna make sure to actually switch it this time.
4, 3, 2, 1. Emelberga is God. Not his mom. His mom is God.
His mom? Yeah, okay. All right. I'll
His mom
concede.
is
She's pretty
definitely
amazing.
God.
so good. Such a good character.
I love there's no foreshadowing or anything for her because in fairy tales the mom is like one of the parents, both the parents, there's always a parent dead. Like you just assume if they're not there at the beginning, they are totally hella dead. And then she comes in later and is like, nah, I'm just a badass who's been doing all of this other stuff and like
I've just been out
conquering.
wars that I caused
Yeah,
all on my own.
I
wars
don't
and then winning wars.
give a shit about this idiot prince and his stupid leopard print pants.
Okay, speaking of fashion, listen, this is one thing that
there's no speaking
No,
of fashion in this manga. No one has any.
Stop it! I know! Stop it! What century? Where are they? What is this?
Right? They
They're-
make
It's
jokes
all
about
over the
airplanes in
fucking
this
place.
manga.
There's one
Like,
guy with
there's
the
a
cell
part-
phone! There was
There's a
guy
part
with
where the
cell
prince has the cell phone. Then there's another one with a megaphone. They have flamethrowers, like
There's
just
the
casually
otaku
interspersed
prince.
throughout the.
The prince who's like super nervous and he goes
Yeah.
into his palace and it's filled with like gotcha machines.
Yeah.
You're like, what is happening?
I love my favorite. I think my favorite reveal moment was in the first chapter with Snow White, where I'm like, look out, she's got a gun.
Yes!
Gun out.
I was like, wait!
Because like everything was pretty. I mean, aside from like the few jokes here and there, like everything was pretty kind of like generic fantasy medieval setting.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I got this. I'm like, what the? Okay.
That's how I felt about about so much, where I'd be like, wait, are we not in the medieval? I don't understand. Like, I think.
Okay. I was gonna say before we get too far, I just want everybody who's watching right now to know that aside from me, the other 3 people on this podcast went into this manga completely blind.
Yep.
They did not read a summary. They had no idea what the fuck they were getting.
I literally,
And I just love that this manga specifically is one you guys were like, I don't need a summary.
I texted Dukes last night and I was like, what manga are we reading again? And she's like, oh, Ludwig Kakumei. I was like, okay, cool. And then I started reading. I was like, what the fuck?
As I started reading, I was like, it's a story about Snow White. How pleasant. And there's this prince that's going to like she'll fall in love with. How nice.
Yeah.
And then she dies at the end and he's a necrophiliac and then he goes, I'm gonna go find a bride. Bye. And I was like, where?
What are we doing?
I love that the author put a little like one of those little like author insert boxes in, and she was like, I was just kind of messing around with like, what if Snow White was evil, right? Wouldn't that be crazy? And then I was just like, and then it went off the fucking rails from there.
Yeah, it's very obvious that the first chapter was like, I just kind of want to write a story where the prince is this super eccentric weirdo in a normal fairy tale story, but then like she just fucks up the story even more. And I think at the very end of the entire manga, there's a blurb where she's like, remember when Ludwig was a necrophiliac?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? It's like the character changed a lot, huh?
That made me laugh so hard.
So obvious that at the beginning she was just like, I don't know, just writing some kind of a goof, and then like it just kept going.
This reminds me of one time when I think I was like 9 years old and I was just starting to write. And I started writing this story and it was about this kid who has this really sad life. And my brother read it and he goes, my God, what else could go wrong? And I went, let me show you. And then I just kept making his life go worse and worse. And it started out in like the slice of life, like totally normal present day. And then 2 chapters later, there was a dragon who kept eating metal and then spitting it at people. And he just like, my brother's like, what are you doing? And so it kind of reminds me of that, in that the beginning you're like, I got this little thing. And then there's a dragon named Dragon at the end.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it.
And then there's a prince who looks like he walked out of a Visual K music video, and
That's literally what it is, yeah.
Oh my God. The ass pulls for everything to explain everything away was just like, it just kept escalating every single time. Like the fact that I just can't get over the dragon thing. Like I just can't get over the mom, the evil queen, turning into a dragon.
Being a dragon, I
was
know.
like, what? There's so much that just makes me be like, wait, what?
I mean, the only thing I'm gonna give the mangaka credit for when it comes to the storytelling is how they kind of foreshadowed Hansel and Gretel so early in the story. because like Hansel and Gretel first kind of get alluded to in the second chapter, and they don't appear for another 8 chapters somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really the only part of the manga that the mangaka took the time to like really plan out.
I always appreciated that, as long as we're talking about things that actually worked story-wise, I always appreciated that after Idike like died, that he still like thought of her fairly often, and that she was like important at the end. I was like, I'm glad that this wasn't like a Captain Kirk situation where he was like, surely she was the love of my life, and then just fucking forgot about her for the rest of his life, you know? I liked that they did like, as much as the story was super convoluted and there were obvious plot holes where she was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that, we'll just pretend that never happened. I did like that they did reference back to stuff that happened in the earlier chapters.
Which made it really funny when he was like, I really don't remember your sister, like who you're talking about. There was when Julius was like, you killed my sister, and he's going, a lot's happened.
Yeah.
And then that made me question if I forgot his sister.
Same. Yeah, that was another blurb that the mangaka wrote, was like, when I had to look back, when I was writing that part and had to look back at all of the people that Ludwig has interacted with, she was like, I realized he's actually probably killed a lot of people. That doesn't really match his personality at the end when I was trying to make him seem like a good person.
So much death in his hands.
Classic.
Sorry, even just like starting the manga, his dad's like, hey, stop killing people. And he's like, I don't know.
We had the classic 90s goof of constant boob jokes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Constant boob jokes.
Constant.
Which made it feel very old in a funny way. I was like, man, it just feels very dated, like to constantly make jokes about people's boobs.
I think one of my favorite boob jokes was when he gets the princess and she gets shot by Little Red Riding Hood, and then her implant falls out, and he just immediately drops her and leaves.
Can't believe you lied to me about your boob size.
William,
it seemed too good to be true.
We're leaving. We're gone.
The whole boob thing did play into one plot point for one of the stories, though, with the whole with the two sisters, one that was a princess, one that wasn't.
Oh yeah, the
moles on
moles on her boob. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So there was a substantive reason for it. Let's not throw the mangaka under the bus.
I mean, okay, all right, I'll give it to you, but I'm not happy about it.
I liked the manga because, like, all right, there's all these fairy tales. What boob joke can I associate with each princess?
Each individual one, right? I love when in the Snow White one, even just in that early on, when he's like, "You didn't tell me that that she was a huge boobed babe." Awesome. Like, who are you?
Every time Willem comes back, he's just like, "Did you get her measurements?" And he's like, "You can't just ask people for their measurements."
And then the one time that he did, he was like, I am ashamed of you.
It's like, that's the best you can go back with. That's another totally old school manga trope of just having the like servant or the side character just like they completely beat up on her or completely mean to, but deep down they're like, I would die for you.
Yeah. There were a lot of like sadistic and masochistic personalities in this. Like those sorts of jokes happened often too, with Dorothea and Cinderella both being like at least slightly masochistic.
Slightly?
Yeah, slightly.
I mean, Dorothea's super masochistic, right? Cinderella maybe like kind of oddly Stockholm syndrome into being masochistic.
With Cinderella, I love that after she realizes that the prince wants to marry her so that he can bully her because she stepped on his precious lizard. That's not an innuendo. That she goes, "Oh, my dream." She's like, "Okay."
I'll get bullied forever.
Forever.
Like, what? It's so silly. Yeah. And we got the hair cutting trope, except it was with Louis instead of a main girl.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good shit. Good shit.
Though it did.
And his hair still looked super long.
Yeah, it didn't
anyway.
even do anything.
It was just split ends. He was just,
Oh my god. I didn't remember that cuz like the armory granny, right, is like, "Oh, I had this hair dye. So you can use this if you want." And then in the next scene, he shows up with black hair, right? And I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't remember him dyeing his hair." And in the end, it's a wig anyway. I was like, "What was the point
Yeah.
of the whole hair dye thing if he didn't use it?"
There's many a thing that I was like, when did this happen? I don't understand. Oh, go ahead, Octo.
Sorry, I just feel like this manga skirts very close to being very LOL random 90s, like in a lot of places. Like this was it was
Invader Zim of manga.
No, okay. Hang on now. Hang on. Don't knock my boy Zim. So the thing about the 90s LOL random is that like they would like a lot of I think Excel Saga fits that like type exactly, and this skirts very close to that kind of humor sometimes. It's just like, whoa, so crazy that this is happening, right? Whoa.
It's like aware that it's a manga and makes jokes about being a manga. And, yeah,
exactly. And it's just like, man, I don't know. I felt like it was still funny at some points, but there's just other times where I was just like, all right, I get it. Like, okay, kind of moving on.
Yeah, there were definitely times where it worked for me, I think.
Yeah,
like what we were talking about at the very beginning, the whole goof with his mom showing up, and then there's literally a panel where they break the fourth wall and are like, "Go back and look, motherfuckers. I never said my mom was dead. Never once. Go back and read. Feel free." I was like, damn.
Called us all out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, because I guess they just show the king.
So what was everyone's favorite chapter?
I like the I don't really know what fairy tale it's based off of or if it is, but I actually really do like the story of the princess and the servant and the horse head.
Yes.
I
thought that one was interesting.
I like the Red Riding Hood one. I think it's the second
one.
That
one was really good.
Yeah, that one was pretty. That
was one where I was
up
like,
that Louis just going ahead and making her kill her parents because
he played a goof on her that got out of hand, and he felt no remorse because he's a piece of shit, right?
Yeah,
but I don't think he intended for her to kill her parents.
Yeah, for her to go from that to killing her parents.
See, that's
0 to 100. Yeah.
That's called a practical joke getting out of hand. That's when it just gets taken a little too far, and you're like, "Whoa, hey,
it's just a prank.
I gotta go. See you later." This went from some comical manslaughter to premeditated murder. I mean,
yeah, that was one of the things that I think was not explained very well. Was like Red Riding Hood later when she comes back as like an assassin. Being like, "Oh, Ludwig is my rival, like I hate him." And I was like, but did you ever find out that he was the one who did the wolf thing? Because if you did, we don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
So, and then later she was like, "No, it was because you took Wilhelm from me." And I was like, then this is very petty.
I was like, I thought you didn't care. I thought you didn't care about him. You were just using him. I'm very confused. The chemistry in this manga is just off the chains.
Wilhelm is a sweet bab that everybody pretends they don't want, but they all want him. Classic 90s.
I think one of the most entertaining chapters, I can't really pinpoint one that was like my favorite, but I think one of the most entertaining chapters to me was the Rapunzel one. Just because so much shit goes like off the walls. It just goes off the rails. So and like ends with her being pregnant with twins, and the prince who impregnated her is blind, but he's not actually blind. He just had like
he had like placebo effect blindness.
Yeah.
But once he gets her again,
The other one I liked that got crazy was the Sleeping Beauty one, where he's like, all those witches that blessed you, they weren't really witches. They were just the king's mistresses. But your mom was a real witch, and that means you're a real witch. Maybe this whole castle is in your imagination, and it fucking is.
He's smart. He's a prince.
He's a prince.
He gets it.
He gets it, I guess. It's just he's like, maybe these are your own powers. Maybe this isn't a real curse. Maybe it's just a sleeping drug. I was like, what is happening?
It got to the point, right? It got to the point where I think every single new story, you were like, all right, what's going to be the twist inside of the twist?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about the princess and the servant locked inside of the tower?
When it turned out they were ghosts.
And then they show up again later. So, like, oh, they'd supposedly finish their unresolved business and pass on to the other side.
Like,
and then they show up again later.
Helping me move on. And then they became specters that killed a guy. I don't understand how that ended at all. It's so funny.
Oh my god.
I really like the frog princess one. Or the frog.
Oh
the
my
frog
god,
prince
that
one.
was a good one.
That one, I feel like that's the one where I was kind of endeared to the main character because he was less of a dick in it.
Yeah.
He took the time to try and protect the girl, and he was, I guess, kind of, and very loosely, a gentleman because he was put in a position where he had to be.
Yeah.
Where he couldn't just rely on his looks.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a very cute chapter. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did enjoy the way that the mangaka had it going between him and the frog face. I thought it was really funny for him to be switching and doing this whole pose, and it gets back to the frog, and the frog is just like this. He's saying something super serious, and then he's just a frog face.
Yeah, I love it.
I was saying this before we went live, but I was very disappointed based off of the first chapter and how dark and grim and crazy it was. I was so disappointed by how quickly that ramped down. It was just up here.
It went
going,
from super fucked up pedophiliac stories.
Yeah.
To, pretty mostly following the grim fairy tale.
Yes.
So still a little fucked up, but not quite as fucked up as the first couple of chapters were.
Where I was like, wait, come back. Give me back the necrophilia, please. That was interesting.
I mean,
wow,
that's
okay.
a Twitch clip right there.
Yeah, there's a good sound clip. Please.
Excuse me, I'm going to eat this.
Oh God. It makes me wonder because I don't think that I've read, because Lou, you found a sequel.
Yeah, there is a sequel.
I've never read
one
it.
shot and 3 chapters that is set in Japan, or a nation like Japan, where he meets Princess Kaguya.
What?
Huh.
Yeah.
So he meets Japanese fairy tales?
Yes.
Cool.
Huh. But I thought they make a reference to being in Japan in this manga, in what we read. Didn't they?
Kind
Why
of.
are you
They
making-
allude to it.
Don't be upset. There's
because
a
of the
plot
whole
hole in this
otaku,
manga, Dodger.
I just everything else made so much sense. I'm just trying to put the pieces together because surely they fit together perfectly.
This is a perfect puzzle.
Surely this was well thought out. Kaori Yuki.
Ah.
Ah.
I don't remember if they mentioned it or not. There was times where there was a lot of speech bubbles and a lot of text.
Yeah.
Where I was like,
Yeah.
how much of this do I need to retain
Yeah.
to understand the rest of this chapter, let alone rest of this?
I felt like
manga.
a lot of speech bubbles were setting up stuff from the actual Grimm fairy tale to be hey, this is just like the Grimm fairy tale. Here's all the little details, but we're gonna put them in the side so I don't have to show them.
Yeah.
At least that's what I felt like.
All right, I'll give you a specific example that supports what you're saying, Octo.
Okay.
There was that one speech bubble in the Cinderella chapter where they mention the sisters chopping off their
feet
toes and their heel.
to fit them in the shoe.
Yeah, and they were like hell we're doing that. That wouldn't even work because the shoe is bigger in
Yeah, but it's still in a speech bubble in that panel
Yeah.
saying that they did that. And then the mangaka goes back and says that they didn't in the afterward, saying that they didn't want to include it because it would be too graphic. But again, that wouldn't even mesh with it. It was weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of did it just to be like, Grimm's fairy tales, right, guys?
Yeah.
Awesome, love it.
Yeah, there's at least in what I read, yeah, it like describes that like they cut off their toes and heels, and then like in little writing it says gross. Like ew.
No, thanks.
And in order to fit the like the way that the weird narrative worked with it actually being Ludwig's shoe, and it was like much bigger.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually pretty funny. That they were like, "Why the fuck would we do that? The shoe is huge."
Yeah,
It would. There's no universe where that would make any sense to do.
That was like a funny little goof, like playing off of that. Some of the ridiculous stuff that happens in fairy tales. Yeah. I'm just trying. What did you guys think about Hansel and Gretel?
I thought they were so tragic.
Yeah, so sad.
So sad.
I mean, like most of the characters in this manga, very sad and depressing.
I was sad that like because when we actually got their backstory, right? Like, I thought that Hansel was such an interesting character, and then when they were being like mercs, he was just kind of like table setting. Like he didn't actually really do anything.
Yeah.
Just kind of disappointing. I was like, oh man, the like Hansel and Gretel story with how they interacted with each other and their relationship was interesting in the actual story. And then once we like fast forwarded to them having learned how to be mercenaries and kill people, it became like Gretel acts super weird all the time and wants to cook people, and Hansel doesn't do nothing. Like that was like who they were.
I mean, Hansel was just the buff boy of the book. That's all it is.
He was the buff boy. It's true.
Buff boy.
Yep. He was a bear at the end.
Yeah.
Great. It's all
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
It literally felt like there was nothing going on, and then the next panel there was suddenly a bear, and I was like, where did the bear come from?
There were times where they were just like skipping from thing to thing, or like transition. The transitions were wonky sometimes to the point where I was just sitting there like, is this the same? Did that scene end? Or is this like
Are we
weird
still in the
fever
same scene? What year is this?
Is this a weird fever dream I'm having right now?
It's funny because Kaori Yuki did like Boys Next Door, which is extremely depressing, and she also did Angel Sanctuary, which is like a long-running, super fucked up manga.
Yeah.
And I think this is the only manga of hers that I've ever read where she tries to be kind of goofy. And
This is goofy? I mean, it's pretty goofy, but
it's pretty fucking goofy, yeah.
this is goofy
What a
for her.
serious manga.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like it's like her kind of fucked up sensibilities, but with her trying to like throw goofs in there, and I think that like it winds up making it feel so disjointed from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Like nothing totally makes sense, but you're still like just going along with it.
I'm interested in Dodger. How, when you were in high school and reading this, what were your feelings on it then when you were reading it back then?
I don't think that at the time I had read or seen very many things that addressed the Grimm's fairy tales and how fucked up they were.
Yeah.
Really. So, at the time reading it, I was like, whoa, these are like really dark takes on some of these fairy tales. And now I realize that a lot of the stuff that she utilizes was in the actual stories, which I'm like, God, those poor kids listening to those stories.
Yeah.
Like, super messed up. They're all very scary. But yeah, I remember reading it when I was in high school and being like, whoa, this feels very different.
Yeah.
And reading it now, I'm like, it's not that different.
Yeah.
But it's fun to reread because it feels so 90s manga. Like it feels so old and weird and like
Like, what were you reading at the same time? Like, what were other mangas you were reading at the same time as this? If you could sort of compare it, because I'm sure it was very different than everything else you were reading. Well, do you remember?
I was super into Naruto at the time.
Well, there you go. It's a little different than that.
So in comparison, I was like, this is so gritty.
Mm-hmm.
I want every
What a
single
gritty mango.
every single one.
It's not right. Can't eat that mango if it's too gritty.
It's too gritty. It's a gritty mango. You don't want to eat that.
Yeah.
Don't touch that.
I don't remember what else I was reading at the time though. Like looking back on high school, I was super into like the big shonen stuff. I was super into One Piece. I was super into Prince of Tennis. Just like really normal shit that everybody liked. But I stumbled onto some Kyoto Yuki stuff and I can't remember how. I think it was when I was like trolling around on IRC just trying to get like scanlations of anything because I just wanted more manga to read. And wound up with some of her stuff and I was like, this is weird.
This is
And read
bizarre.
Kakumei.
And now
Yeah.
here we are.
And now here we are. Cheers, everybody.
I
I'm
want
pretty.
every single one of your birthday pods from now on has to be manga that you read when you were younger.
Did you ever read Marmalade Boy?
I
Can
may.
you read that next birthday cast?
I never read Marmalade Boy.
Damn it! All right, it's fine.
Octo, for your birthday, we can read Marmalade Boy.
We can read Marmalade Boy? Okay,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, that reminds me when Dodger, when you and I were like bonding over anime and manga one time, we both realized that each other had bought the entire series of Kamikaze Kaitao Gen in like bootleg subtitles, and we both realized that, and we had like marathoned it. We're like, this is why we're meant to be friends.
It's true. Yeah, man.
That bootleg Kamikaze Kaitao Gen. We read that on MangaPod once, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We've
did.
only read it once,
Forever.
though.
Yeah,
I think.
forever ago. Sweet.
That was another one that felt very dated, but was so nostalgic. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
They're thieves,
They
but
love
one of
each
them is a
other.
thief for God, and one of them is a thief for Satan.
But which is which?
but which is which?
Who? What twist?
Shit.
So,
Oh my
Ludwig!
Ludwig.
Visual
Ludwig
K.
Ludwig, sorry.
How did you guys feel about the art?
So
Oh,
90s.
boy. I have a thing to say about that. You guys first, though.
No, you go.
Go for it, Octo.
Yeah, you go.
So, every fucking panel, I felt like I was looking at the person that draws the art for Castlevania. Like, every single one. Because all their hair was doing that thing where it was like...
Yeah.
Or like, this was like kind of a long shot. Then it was like the really dumb, like Outlaw Star spike down kind of look.
Yeah.
But like when it was the detail shots, it was all like flowers and very like a lot of halftones and things like that.
Mhm.
It all looked
also-
very much like that.
They also had the really long like fingers and stuff.
Yes.
Which I think feels like a very old. I don't know. I don't want to keep like referencing how dated this manga
No,
feels.
it
really.
I mean, I think
But, like,
because
I think
it
it-
is.
In older manga, I feel like I see that much more often. Like the fingers that just feel like they go on forever and like curl really weird around stuff. Have like really big knuckles and things.
Oh, for the record, Symphony of the Night came out the year before this manga started being published.
Did it really?
Yeah. So,
So
there's
there
a
might have
legitimate
been
chance
some-
that
Yeah.
there should have been
it's-
some sort of
inspiration.
influence.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. I thought it was very Castlevania, and I also thought that there was a lot of like same face going on.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, where there was
Yeah.
many times, even with the main character, where I was just going, I don't know if you're the main character or you're suddenly a different person that popped up, because he would at times like look way younger at some panels when the
Yeah.
mangaka drew him at a different
Yeah.
perspective. He suddenly looked like 10 years younger, and so
I totally
it would just.
agree.
I was so confused many times where I'm going, do I know these characters? Oh, it's the prince? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that like how much of a difference you would feel looking at that main character from time to time. Really, like I experienced that too, and it kind of made the fact that he was 19 shocking to me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there were some instances where he looked to be significantly older,
Mhm.
but I don't know.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think it was supposed to be, right? That this whole story paints him as like a super lecherous,
Yeah.
awful adult,
Hedonistic.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the end, he's like, I'm 19, lol. And then everybody reading is supposed to be like, no. um, yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that there were multiple characters that happened with, where from one frame to the next, you'd be like, wait, is that the same person? Because their face shape would be different or their eyes would be different.
Yeah, it happened to me, especially amongst the princesses, like, or the sort of female ingenues that would show up, every chapter. I'd be like, yeah, this is the same character I read about last chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
You just put a different outfit on.
yeah, there's just different clothes. The moment after Ludwig died and was in the coffin, and Julius came and did the whole kissing thing, kissing.
Yeah.
I thought that was Little Red Riding Hood, like all the way up until Ludwig woke up, and I'm just like, what is she doing? This is not her character at all. I don't understand what is going on. And then Ludwig did the whole, oh, you're a man, I don't really want a kiss from you. And I was like, wait, what? Little Red Riding Hood's a man? Oh, okay.
That was another thing that Kyoto Yuki put a blurb about at the end of the manga. Was like, let me explain what's going on with Julius, since I did not do that very well in the actual manga. So I think everybody who finished reading it was like, wait, are they a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
Are they neither? I don't know what's happening.
It was very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, the art is extremely hit and miss. Sometimes it looks it like has a really cool feel to it, and other times you're just like, what are you doing? What is this?
Yes.
So yeah.
All of the settings of like the towns and the castles and everything, they also felt similar, and they never really felt like they were moving places. But it's a medieval, I think.
Yeah, I think
a
that also
medieval
comes.
setting, so it's not a lot of variation anyway.
That also comes from the fact that with Grimm's fairy tales, it's just sort of like in a faraway land.
Yeah.
So she's probably just like, whatever, castles, villages, cottages,
cell phones.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in like
fedora hats.
Yeah.
Revolvers.
I think we all, when we're reading a story about people who are going on an adventure, right, who are like journeying to faraway lands, ideally you want each place to feel different, and you want each place to look different so that it really feels like they're going on a journey. Because I think I'm not the only one who read this and felt like he was literally right next to his kingdom the whole time.
Yes.
Like he could go home in an hour and just be there. But again, I don't want to demand too much out of this manga, because I don't think she planned on making this into anything.
Yeah.
I don't think it didn't seem like
think
she had any kind of a story until like quite a few chapters in, and then was like, oh, I think I've got a story I can write with this.
I think I remember reading a blurb somewhere that she took a trip to Europe to kind of like prepare for this. And given that, I mean, typically those types of trips are funded by the publisher so they can, go do research.
Right.
I would have expected to see changes in architecture or the design sense in the nobility. Like there were avenues that the mangaka could have taken to make each different fairy tale feel distinct, because a lot of the time they were portrayed as different countries, different kingdoms, different countries. So you would imagine that the aesthetics were at least somewhat different. But I don't know. In terms of like the how I felt about the art as a whole, the only thing I'll give the mangaka like a lot of credit for, in terms of character designs, is Dorothy, and that's because that's the one character who I always could identify them because of the rings around her eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's the only one. What did you guys think about her? We haven't talked about her at all.
Oh, I thought she was fucking great.
Yeah. She was one of the more dynamic characters for sure.
Yeah, definitely interesting, as because a lot of the sort of female side characters sort of get written off as like, you know, character of the week, but she had a little more to her than the other ones did.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the whole story culminated in like helping her.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I like that the finale was about her. Like it was about finding her and rescuing her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also just because I thought it was funny. I just love that the whole time Ludwig is like, I don't even know what she really fucking looks like. Like, what does she actually look like? And in the end, she's a kid anyway. It's like, well, there you go. She's a kid now. So
she's a child.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that there was that one little line of dialogue where, like after she's rescued, and Ludwig basically says, "Oh, she lost her 2 redeeming assets."
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, Ludwig.
Oh,
Quality
Ludwig.
trash.
Ludwig.
Quality trash.
Super trash. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up, or should we give final thoughts and ratings?
I'm cool. Final thoughts and ratings for me.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's rate this manga, guys.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, fucking 6 out of 10. I don't know. Shit. I'd say like, okay, so like 6 out of 10. It's funny. It's very much a product of its time. It's got some goofs that still land, but it does feel very disjointed and kind of hodgepodgey. So I don't think it stands very well if you take it at face value. But if you just sort of like don't think about it too hard and you're just like, this is a goofy, funny time, then you'll have a good time with it.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a 5. Even being somebody who really liked this manga in high school and rereading it, still enjoyed it. Absolutely. It's very obvious that there are a lot of problems with it. But I think that there's something to be said for the fact that while reading it, you're like, wow. Like you can see all of the issues, but you still enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
So, I would say, there's some goofs that still land pretty well. It's just fun and silly and dumb and sometimes really dark and it's a silly trash.
Lou?
I'm also going to give it a 5 for basically the same reasons that Dodger had. It's not a very good manga if I'm evaluating just like if I'm being critical with it, it's not a good manga, but I enjoyed it. So, you know, I can't completely shit on it because it did more than what some more competent manga were able to pull off. So yeah, execution was garbage, but I laughed and I was happy reading it. And I mean, it's not often that I'll go on the group chat and say, "What the shit is this?" And
both
I did
you
that with
and
this manga.
Octo. Like first opening line was, "What the fuck did this read?"
I think as soon as you opened the chat, what did I say? I said, "What the fuck is this manga?"
Yes.
Literally the second I added you to the chat.
It was just, I laughed so hard in all caps too. That's the best part.
So yeah, 5 out of 10.
I'm gonna say 5 out of 10 as well. Like I said, I think I enjoyed it more because I knew I would be discussing it with friends right afterwards. There's a lot of stuff that's very mediocre about this manga. There's stuff that is fun. It's a wild ride. Ludwig is a very just horrible person, but you're also like he's also kind of endearing at times where you're like, what is he gonna ever find a wife? Or is he just gonna keep like dropping babes because they're A cups? Like, what's gonna happen? What is this? And then people become dragons, and his mom is just a really badass general queen. And it was a wild ride, guys. Not at all as I was expecting, but I'm happy I was able to read it with friends. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Fun out of 10.
Side note, there are 9 fanfics on AO3 for Ludwig Kakumei.
Ooh, find the best one.
What if anybody's ever written fanfic for this manga?
That's like 7 more than I thought there would be.
What is the ships?
Main ship is Ludwig and Wilhelm, which I probably could have guessed.
What is the best summary? Read it to us, please.
Let's see.
I want to hear it.
It looks like a lot of these are like fairy tales that Yuki didn't touch on. So like somebody's doing like a Beauty and the Beast thing.
Right.
A few of these are in French? Question mark.
Well, how's your French?
Okay, you ready? She is an orphan.
Well, read the French one.
I can't.
Okay, all right.
She is an orphan. She is a girl child, alone in the world, a monster, bitch, shadow in the trees, a rumor for parents to whisper to their children, a nightmare in a red hood, and hurtling toward her destiny. She is not afraid of wolves. That's one of the, there you go.
MangaPod sometime.
Girl child.
Bitch.
Bitch, a shadow in the trees.
Amazing.
That's
Oh my
fuck.
god. Yeah, okay, well, that wraps up our discussion on Kakumei. If it sounds like a manga you're interested in, definitely go and check it out. I am now going to read... What a good manga pod. I'm going to now read the description for the manga I'm reading next week. That fanfic is just, like, ringing in my ears. Just the description. Oh my god. I'm reading the description for manga that we're reading next week. Everybody in chat gets to try and guess what it is. It's our fun little game. In the near future, technology has firmly taken root into society at large. Blank implants are nothing uncommon, and blank roam as plentiful as humans, all connected through their blanks to the electronic data streams of the net. Data sure. Blank and the blank find themselves in constant battle with the newly created wave of technological terrorists and cyber hackers. But things take a turn once blank gets involved in a certain case involving an extremely dangerous blank hacker named the Blank, as she dives deeper and deeper into the limitless reality of the net to reach her own startling conclusions.
Cardcaptor Sakura.
Yes.
That's the one. You got it.
My favorite clamp manga of all time.
My favorite clamp manga where everyone's connected to the cyber brain.
Trevor with numbers, got it.
Yay!
I'm assuming that's Trevor. The 7REVO.
Yeah, that's how I always read it. Yeah.
Good job, Trevor.
Good job, Trevor.
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody, we are reading Ghost in the Shell.
Nice.
Long time coming, my dudes.
That one that listing. Oh yeah, it has both of them. All right, we're reading both parts. Parts 1 and 1.5. That's 18 chapters.
Sweet. So it's parts 1 and 2, right?
Oh, no, 1 and 1.5.
1 and 1.5. That's right. Yeah, it's all kind of weird. So we're reading those 18 chapters. We'll be doing that next week. So we hope you guys can come and join us. Now we're going to go ahead and shout out our stuff super fast. I'm Erin of Happily Erin. I have a YouTube channel. All the previous manga pods are hosted there. I also have reviews and first impressions. I haven't really been making any new content because I'm currently focusing on writing a book, so that's where all of my kind of spare time has been going. But I am pretty active on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat. If you want to come follow me on that, I'm Happily Erin all across the everything. I am currently in Voltron Hell, so that's what I've been tweeting about a lot. Come by me.
Perfect. Hi everybody, I'm Dodger, and I'm 30.
Yeah!
And you can find me at youtube.com/presshearttocontinue and twitch.tv/dexbonus. I've been streaming a lot and not doing quite as much YouTube, but I want to come back to it. So yeah, keep an eye out. I do anime stuff and gaming stuff and just generally try to have a good time. So that's me.
Oh, Dodger, I noticed something.
Yes.
The mangaka that wrote this manga became a professional mangaka the year you were born. So there you go.
Aw, what fate!
Look at that. Oh my
Great.
gosh, it's all
Amazing.
coming together.
Mhm.
Amazing.
All according to Keikaku.
Mhm.
My name's Lou. from Lou Talks Anime. You can find me at Lou Talks Anime on YouTube and on Twitter. Talk more on Twitter than anything. Talk to me on Twitter, please. I'm lonely. That's it.
I'm so lonely.
Hey, what's up? I'm Octo. Sorry I was eating during this podcast, but I hadn't eaten all day, and my tummy was really upset with me.
It's all good,
Aw.
Just Google Octopimp. I'll show up. But don't watch my Crash Bandicoot memes because they're bad. Hey, what's up? Thanks for watching. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anytime,
thanks for
anytime.
coming
Thanks for
for my
joining us again.
birthday pod.
Anytime.
I'm excited to have you back for Marmalade Boy.
Oh yeah, actually, I'm really excited about that. that manga's fucked up.
Yes. No, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. As always, you're wonderful. And thank you, everybody in chat who's watching this live on both Twitch and YouTube. We really appreciate it. If you're watching the VOD, thank you as well. If you guys would like more MangaPod, you can find our subreddit, reddit.com/r/MangaPod. We have a recommendation thread there for you to post recommendations for manga you would like us to go and check out. And then we also have our schedule. So if you want to find out what we are reading, not just next week, but in the weeks to come all the way through the end of December, you can read that there as well. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. We will be here same time, same place next week, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, reading Ghost in the Shell. We'll see you guys then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.